Good morning. This is Michael Dong. In episode number 8, we're going to show you a very useful piece of freeware for learning HPLC and give you a live demo. The freeware is called the Practical HPLC Simulator by Dr. David Guillaume. Here's my agenda. We start off with a list of available HPLC training resources uh, as of today. Second one, we're going to describe this practical HPLC simulation freeware, which is a program in Excel, and how one can learn the various concepts of HPLC easily and also very quickly. Finally, I would perform a live demo to demonstrate the software platform, which is Excel spreadsheet with macros, and show you the complex effect of many parameters on HPLC method performance. So topic number one is a list of HPLC training resources at an intermediate level as of today, which is June of 2025. So some of these are estimated, the heading are presenter, organization, location, and dates, fees, which are estimated, and some comments. Okay, the first three is short courses that I myself would perform annually at these various organizations. You can pause the slide and kind of take a look at that. Uh, from American Campus Society of ACS, East Analytical Symposium, PitCon, and some of these are paid courses, so there are some fees associated with them. Uh, for mostly for the conference attendee, these are live. The second one actually category is by Dr. Lee Polite, who own a training facility institute called Axion, located in Chicago. They call it the LC Boot Camp. These are actually 5 days of on-site laboratory training, hands-on laboratory training, and those are the estimated fees. Obviously, a lot of you would get operating training or lab training or fee schedule training from the HPLC manufacturer, from the manufacturer you purchase your equipment. There are also remote video resources. Okay, one of the most prominent one is Chrome Academy, which offer online, and there are some free membership for light members, and also premium member. There's a fee associated with it. There are an estimated above 100 videos on this site. Okay, on this YouTube channel called HPLC Fractional Scientist, also a free platform. So my plan is, this is number 8. My plan is to have about 25 videos by October or September of 2025. So I'm working towards that goal. So first of all, you have to download the simulators, and here's the link. And these are absolutely free freewares, meaning that you can download it to your PC and you can use it for life. Okay, and when you click on that link, you see this download. The file is only about 8 megabytes, so you can use the above link to download it. If you cannot type that, you can do a Google search. Make sure that you would type the Practical HPLC Simulator from University of Geneva to avoid being uh, clicking on a sponsor, from different sites. So 3 free files are downloaded, and these are what it looked like. The one with the macro is the actual program. So if you want to launch a program, the simulator, you will click on that one. There's also an associated, kind of like a manual, which describes the theoretical background of the software, some terminology, and also give you a very simple demo process. I think using a case study on separation of parabens. Okay, the one that I'm doing it would be something different. It's going to be a gradient base and a more pharmaceutical analytical example. And here's a foreword by Dr. David Guillaume, who is a professor at University of Geneva, a little bit on the history of the freeware, right? I wouldn't read it, and these are actually uh, verbatim from David. Okay, a little description on this demo example. Okay, here we are using a generic gradient under UHPLC grading condition to separate a component test mixture. Okay, and here first we enter the parameter. So you get you familiar if you're a beginner of the parameter. There's very complex parameter of column, dimensions, particle size, mobile phase. So all these different parameter will be shown in the next slide. Next, you're going to select a mixture, example number 5, which is salbutamol, which is a COPD drugs with 4 impurity. These are actually real laboratory case study which David used to kind of validate his program. After you enter the thing, you can see the simulated chromatogram and also its associated performance data. These are shown in slide number 7, but I think during the live demo, things would become easier. Also, the most important thing is that you can vary all these factors, such as particle size, mobile phase, and you can see the resultant chromatogram changes with the simulated chromatogram. So it's a very dynamic and very useful for learning tools, which is absolutely free and very effective. And the resulting chromatogram also method performance things such as analysis time, resolution, peak width, asymmetry or pigtailing, peak height. So all these things can be simulated in a very realistic fashion. Also, there's a window that show you what are the contribution to extra column band broadening, so you can actually learn how to improve your separation later on from the simulated study. Now, this demo case study was also published in 2021. So actually, I published a paper on LCGC magazine, which you can also download for free. Give you a kind of a written version of what you expect to find out. But I think the best way to learn is actually to watch the live demo, and you can see how easy it is to simulate and use the program. It's very quick. Here's the example entry that I suggested the first time you do it. Once you get familiar with it, you can basically do whatever you want, right, without making too many mistakes. Okay, so I want you to click on UHPLC. Okay, obviously, if you use a HPLC column, you can also use those conditions. So this would get you familiarized with the instrument condition. pH, we're going to use acidic pH, like in most pharmaceutical cases. Mobile phase A is acidic pH, and the actual example using 0.1% formic acid. And those are UV detection parameters, time constants, acquisition rate, a column parameter, column, and also temperature, porosity. So some of these would be explained later on in a live demo. Also in the injector or the sample segment, the injection volume, the concentration of a sample. And here you would click mixture number 5, which is salbutamol drug and with its impurity. And also sample diluent, and here I say 50% organic solvent. Finally, the gradient. This is going to be really important. Gradient time is the most prominent control of analysis time and also of peak capacity. So those are some of the parameter which is expanded so that you can see it more clearly. Slide number 7 show you the simulated chromatogram. If you enter all these things correctly, and you should get a chromatogram with 5 components and with the profile of the gradients, as you can see where the last peak is eluting out. And then you have the first peak is the API and salbutamol. And before you do that, you should reset the program. And those are the output data, right? So some of the parameters such as peak symmetry, uh, signal noise ratio, and peak width and half height are shown here. And here is also a peak capacity. Okay, shown here is 92. And here is the window for looking at the percentage of column efficiency realized. So, so, so you can demo how you can minimize that loss of column efficiency. So let's do a live demo of the freeware. Hello, everyone. Let's do a live demo on the practical HPLC simulator. Here is the software, which is an Excel spreadsheet with active macro. So the first thing we do is to reset the program to default. I mentioned earlier that we're going to use a method, which is a UHPLC method with the 2-minute gradient uh, to separate a mixture, pharmaceutical mixture of 5 components. So here you go, right? So the first thing we do is to pick UHPLC system, okay? And then in most cases for pharmaceutical analysis, we would use a acidic mobile phase A, and under the pH window, if you click on this icon, you can choose 2.7. And when you do that, it actually shows you that the simulation is using a 0.1% formic acid, which is very common in mobile phase A. Acetonitrile is going to be our solvent of choice, so that's good. Next thing is the UV detector. We're going to use 1 microliter for the flow cell volume, which is very common. Wavelength 220 actually looks good. Time constant, we will make it 50. And then the acquisition hertz is going to be 5 hertz, 5 points per second on the CDS. The next item is going to be column oven or the column choice. For QC and for method development, one of the best choice is going to be a 5 centimeter long column. Very common way of doing it. So this is 15 millimeter. Actually, one of the better QC column dimension is 3 millimeter. Okay, so that's what we going to choose. And one of the best particle size actually is 2.7 or sub 3 micron. We're going to use C18, which is a very common default. For column temperature, default is 30 or 35. We're going to choose 35. Porosity, 0.6 or 0.7 is a default, but we're going to just use 1. Now, this time 0 actually is calculated, so you can't really use anything on that. And then we're going to go to the next parameter. Okay, very important for the sample. We're going to choose mix 5, which is salbutamol and impurity. So there's going to be 5 components in there. The sample diluent is saying here is 20%. The default actually for drug discovery type application is 50. So we're going to do 50% acetonitrile and water. Injection volume, 2 microliter is good. Concentration, we're going to change it to 0.5. For outlet tubing, 50 centimeters too long, so 5 is actually a better one. 100 micron or 0.1 millimeter is actually pretty good, so we're going to pick 5 centimeter for both inlet and outlet. So I'm once again using the recommended parameter shown in the slides previously. Okay, in the pump, we're going to choose gradient instead of isocratic because most of the critical assay, particular stability indicating assay, is going to be used gradient. Okay, so here the default looks good. The time is a 2-minute. The gradient time is 2 minutes, which is a good choice. Flow rate, we're going to use 1 mil per minute. 1 mil per minute is actually the optimum flow rate for this particle size and also this column ID. So we see the pressure over here. VD stands for dwell volume, which is a gradient delay volume. So 100 microliter or zero point 0.1 mil is actually pretty good for a new HPLC system. So these parameter looks pretty good. And in the right-hand side, we're going to see the practical HPLC simulated chromatogram shown here. Very good separation of 5 peaks. The first peak, according to the output data, is salbutamol over here. And you can see that between peak 1 and 2, the resolution is not quite baseline, it's 1.43. So this is a very well simulated data because the data set that's used to train this data was uh, actually validated using some real case study. Okay, so in the output data, we have the compound ID, we have the peak width at the half height, we have asymmetry, which is very similar to peak tailing, and we have resolution, which is the most important parameter. Peak height, peak area, noise, which is going to be controlled by a number of parameters, like um, the wavelength of detection, things like that, and the signal to noise ratio for each peaks over here. On the top two graph over here, the first one actually is the UV spectrum, and is showing a methyl paraben, which is not correct. So we're going to change that to salbutamol, which is a drug for COPA, a respiratory drug. And we can see that our monitoring wavelength is 220, which is pretty good for the UV spectrum of the API. The lower graph shows the percentage of ionization. Now, actually, most of the drugs are weak basic, and so is salbutamol, which is basically the pKa is 9.4. So under acidic pH of 2.7, everything is ionized, is protonated. So it's become very polar, right? You can see that over here. So if you go to higher pH, you can see that the retention time of all the component will shift to higher retention because they might become non-ionized. Once again, you have a gradient. A peak capacity is about 100, about 92, which is not bad for this very quick gradients. And we're saying that the chromatogram is pretty good. It's not best. The reason why it's not best is that we're not getting baseline resolution. Here's the reason. And in the last graph here, we show the percentage loss of efficiency. So this entire simulation is very well and very realistic of what you really truly get. And they're saying that we are losing a little bit about 15%, which is not bad, but we can definitely look at these graphs here and try to improve it. We show that by looking at smaller tubing ID connection, we can make this a little better. So let's do some assimilation and see what we got, right? The first thing we're going to try to do is let's change the pH. So going to pH 4.5, you can see that things are shifting forward, actually getting a little better separation. And we're going to go to pH 9. And once again, you can see the pH is shifting quite a bit further, more retention, because now the API not totally ionized over here. You see the percentage ionization is a little bit non-ionized over here, but about 60% ionized. Okay, let's go back to our default. Next thing is to look at some of these wavelength of detection and things like that. So we go to 280. You can see that because of the different absorbance, different lambda maxes, things are quite a bit different on that. If you go to actually a higher wavelength of 310, And some of them are not visible, even though that because they don't absorb at those wavelengths of 310. Go back to 220. So time constant and also acquisition rate actually is important, particularly for fast-eluding peak, right? So if you have an acquisition rate, let's say, which is too slow, let's say instead of 5 hertz or 5 points per second, we're going to say go to 1. Okay, actually, we don't see too much of a change over here. Let's go back to 5, and let's go to a higher constant. Let's say a constant of 500 millisecond. You can see how much broader the peaks are, right? So this time constant shown in this program have a pretty dramatic effect on fast-eluding peak. Next, we're going to go back to our default condition, and we're going to look at the effects of the column length. And let's say if we go to 100, 10 centimeter long column. So you can see that retention time are longer, and actually you do get more column efficiency, even though that the resolution is not improved because the gradient probably at this case, control the separation. Okay, let's go back to 50. And then we can also change the chemistry. Let's say go to phenol. You can see that there are some selectivity changes. Okay, so this demo actually kind of give you quite a bit of variation, and one can observe immediately. It's really a great learning tool over here. Okay, so I'm going to do the injection volume, and right away, if I go to a small injection volume, you can see how much the peak absorbance instead of about 2 AU now, because we're injecting quite a bit less, right? And the noise becoming more significant. And we can do the similar, actually we were using 2 microliters. We can do the same thing with the concentration. We can also play around with the outlet tubing, right? Let's say if we want to have an outlet tubing, which is like say 15 centimeter, which doesn't show that much. Let's say go to 100 centimeter. And one can see that that has very negative effect on the resolution because there's more extra column band broadening from the tubing. Okay, so we can see that we have 14% loss of column efficiency, and because the tubing effect of tubing, right? So to minimize that, we can go to 65%. And one can see that now the loss is much lower. We can change this similar thing for the inlet tubing, and now it's no longer a big factor. Now the other thing become a big factor, the other factor, right? So you can play around with the various factor, and it's becoming very interactive. We're going to go back to 100. And finally, I want to illustrate the effect of gradient time, which is going to be the most dramatic. And we understand that a longer gradient time give you much higher resolution, but also increase your analysis time, right? So let's say if we use the same column and go to 10 minutes of a gradient time, and one can see the efficiency is much higher. The overall peak capacity efficiency is going to be proportional to the square root of the gradient time over here. You can see things are better. But still, there are some collusion because of changes retention time. Let's go back to 2 minutes. The other thing I want to illustrate that is when in method development, typically we don't want to use a broad gradient. A shallow gradient would do a better job. And the reason you can estimate what is the best way to program your gradient range. Here you can see that in about 40%, here is 50% over here. The gradient percentage B, right? So 95% is kind of an overkill for this instance over here. So we go to 40% in 2 minutes, one can see that things are much better. The resolution are much more improved because now we're pushing out the analyze it in a much slower fashion. Instead of going to 95%, go to 0 to 40. So one can play around with the gradient segment and get all kinds of effect, in terms of training your mind on how does things respond to the various parameter. Okay, so I think you get the drift of the software, and it's nice to actually get a real demo because there are some nuances which might be missed on a PowerPoint presentation. So on that note, we're going to go back to our video. Here's my summary and conclusion. In this session, we demo the use of a practical LC simulator as a learning and teaching tool. The user can get more familiarized with common parameters such as column, operating condition, and instrumental parameter. We use the simulation program to simulate a separation case study on pharmaceutical impurity testing. And one can observe the chromatogram and the performance of performance loss and understand how all these complex factors can have effect on separation performance, such as resolution, peak capacity, analysis time, and sensitivity. Finally, we sincerely thank Dr. David Yam and his team at University of Geneva, who spent thousands of hours during the COVID shutdown to develop this free educational tool so that everyone can benefit. And they also offer it as a free program to benefit the separation community. So really, really, those efforts are sincerely appreciated. So I hope you enjoy this episode number 8, which is a little different from the usual PowerPoint presentation. Please once again urge you to subscribe to the channel for future videos and also visit some of the website and linking pages for more resources. On that note, I see you next time.